Welcome, everybody, to another episode of BTR Beyond the Ropes. My name is Fernando, aka Retro Relapse. To my left is my hetero lifemate and tag team partner, Randizzle. Randy.
Woo! What's going
And
on?
to my right is our special guest, Draven,
I made a sudden reappearance.
aka the Axe Murderer.
Yeah,
Or AKA the Make-A-Wish kid.
yeah.
He survived. He survived.
Another week.
Another week. One more week. We're a little
He's his own phenom with the doctors. Hey man, but we wanted to bring another special episode to you guys. It's our little extra thing that we like to put out there for everyone away from the live shows, because give you guys a chance just to give you some more content, because that's what we're all about, right? Give them more content, because we're talking about wrestling. And you know what, today we are bringing in another episode, and we want to talk about something that kind of means something to the heart to all of us here on the show, as well as hopefully you guys at home. And that one thing that Draven brought to the table today, and it really did, pull a couple of heartstrings. The resurgence of Mr. Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, the video that was just released yesterday. And they're trying to make waves of things that are going on, but putting them out there saying that they want to start shaking things up again really brings up some old memories. And today's topic is
Today we're going to talk about who was more influential, the New World Order, NWO, or D Generation X.
That's a good one.
bringing some heat to the table. I love it.
Well, who wants to kick this
Vertical.
off? Who wants to kick off? Like, there has to be, I guess, a debate, right? Who
True.
likes NWO more? Who likes DX more? And who's can see both points?
Well, for those who love to watch us, don't forget to give us a good old thumbs up, like, and subscribe wherever you're watching us. Wherever you get all your podcast needs and wherever you see us on social media. But for those who are new to the program, we got to give a little bit of background to both of these factions. NWO, mid-90s. WCW was just kind of turning awry because you have a bunch of old wrestlers that, were pretty stale in a lot of their products. Some came from WWF, some were homegrown. And they needed to shake and stir things up. And the mastermind behind shaking and stirring things up was Mr. Eric Bischoff. And he created a supergroup unknowingly with the Outsiders. Am I right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Started with the Outsiders.
That started with Scott Hall, a.k.a.
Razor Ramon,
and Kevin Nash, a.k.a.
Big Daddy Diesel.
You damn right.
Big Daddy Cool.
So now you have these two guys in the fold kind of disrupting things. They bring in a third member into their group. And it happened to be a what pay-per-view?
Bash
Bash
on
the
the Beach.
Beach.
Yeah.
What, 90...
6.
Ooh, 96. Wow, why does it feel older than that?
That is old.
Time
That's
is
30
flying
plus
by,
years,
man.
dude. That's 30.
Time is
That's 30
flying
years old.
by. So you have this match that's going on, the main event match. It was Scott Hall, Kevin Nash versus
It was Macho Man,
mhm.
Sting, and Luger.
That's right. It was a 2-on-3. It was supposed to be a 3-on-3.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be a 6-man. And they said eventually our third man's going to come out. Well, things started going awry. And here comes the supposed third man to help out. To help out the faces, here comes Hulk Hogan, at the time who was a face in WCW.
Before you get into it,
Yeah,
here's a quick little side fact. It was actually supposed to be Sting who was supposed to be the third person. It's been said many times on all the podcasts, 83 weeks of Eric Bischoff, that the main third person was supposed to be Sting because he was floundering as Surfer Sting.
Uh-huh.
So it was supposed to be him, give him a resurgence. I'm not sure if they knew he was going to be the Crow Sting at the time, but it was supposed to be him because Hogan wasn't sold on the idea of going heel. He made his money as a face. Red and yellow, running wild, it's hard to go backwards. It's hard to see what's on the other side of the hill when you've always made tons of money on this side. So go ahead.
Yep. Here comes Hogan, out to make the save, out to help out the faces, and he ended up turning heel, going against his brethren there in the ring, and shocking the world where he made his big debut as Hollywood Hulk Hogan the heel. But of course, he doesn't dub the name until the following episode on Nitro. Am I right? That was pay-per-view on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday.
Yeah. And that just shocked the world.
It's probably the greatest heel turn ever. I think probably the most important heel turn.
Until this year in Elimination Chamber when John Cena made that heel turn. I'm just saying.
I honestly think like even now, even though that one's so fresh, I still think Hogan's heel turn is bigger in terms of impact and historical value. I think that one's gonna. I think this
for longevity. For longevity, yes, but we also haven't let what John Cena did even remotely simmer. So we'll see. I mean, you're not wrong. Like it changed the course of WCW and their business and where WWE was going, and it changed the whole. These stupid outlandish characters were more real hard hitting characters. So as of now, it is the biggest. It has the biggest impact in wrestling culture in general. Yeah. So it
was like such at the perfect time, right as the fans are starting to kind of turn on the faces, like they want to see more heels, they want to see more edge, like you said, like it happened right at the right moment, and that's just why it worked. It's crazy.
They wanted the anti-heroes. They didn't want just heels. They wanted the anti-heroes.
What people kind of seem to forget that the industry was changing with more reality TV things that were going on other stations and stuff. Wrestling had to keep up with the times. There was a lot of gimmicks that were going on, a lot of characters that just weren't flying over anymore, or they were stale because it was stuff that came from the 80s, the muscle men that were doing things, or your clowns and your your Paul Bearers and your Super Hulkmen and things like that. So no, people wanted something real and more realistic, and Eric Bischoff found a way to really just fine tune what he had going on and just started a brand new revolution with that. And with that came the New World Order.
Well, that's right.
Of course,
new World Order.
They led the Monday Night Wars that were going on at the time with the new resurgence of, oh man, what are these guys going to do? Because they're just running roughshod on everything. They're just going and just wrecking everything and taking names and eventually growing their crew bigger and bigger. Of course, they stayed as a trio in the beginning. Bischoff comes in later as another member, and then they start bringing other members along the way. And eventually it grows to being a really big super group that no one could stop. But it made everything interesting where everyone really wanted to watch and see what was going on. And then what did that happen? What happened because of that? The turnaround, WWF was losing ratings. So now they need to think of, well, what can we do to vamp things up to get people to start watching, because no one's watching the kiddie gimmick program anymore. Well, their resurgence was Raw is War. So now they turned their Monday night show into Raw is War. And one of the key demographics that were going on over there was, well, they needed to really vamp up some different stars and make their stars bigger to, if not beat what was going on in WCW. So what did they do? They start bringing out more hard-hitting wrestling with weapons and whatnot. Mick Foley comes out of this. Undertaker revamps a bit. Stone Cold ends up being a bigger entity there. But one of the ones that really stood out, my opinion, because I was a big Raw head, didn't watch a lot of WCW, was Degeneration X. You have Shawn Michaels and Triple H and China starting a group that's doing the same thing like NWO is doing, but they're being more degenerate. They're being more roughshod and against whatever thing's going on against the man, kind of relating to the people. Hey man, fuck you and your boss. and all the shenanigans that had to come with it.
Mm.
And, you talk about Monday Night Wars. Well, the crazy thing is, Rick Rude was with DX first, right? It
Yeah.
was Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Rick Rude. And then they brought in China. They wanted a believable woman, and China, being a strong looking woman, comes into the fold. But you see Rick Rude on Sunday's In Your House pay-per-view, and on Monday he's on Nitro. He's the one who started this big flip war out of nowhere. Because first he's in DX, and all of a sudden he's in NWO the next night, which is crazy. And that really kind of starts ignites the fuse on what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a glaring difference between DX and NWO, because NWO engulfed itself, right? With its own bullshit. It engulfed itself. It took over a company and never created people, never helped create stars. It just fed into each other, so much so that it broke off, and then you had NWO Wolfpack and NWO Black and White. And then those groups turn on each other, and now it's a whole war. With DX and WWF, WWE, at the time, DX was creating new stars, right? You had Shawn Michaels, Triple H, China. Well, Shawn Michaels was on his way out. He's on his way out, and on his way out, he makes Stone Cold. Now Stone Cold's the anti-hero, makes him a fucking star. When he leaves, well, it can't just be Triple H and China anymore. You need young blood, but you also need someone you can trust. So who do you get? You get X-Pac, someone you can trust. 1, 2, 3 kid, right? Part of the clique.
Mm-hmm.
And which is funny, I say clique, but out of those 5 wrestlers, they're the ones that created the 2 biggest factions in the whole world, in the wrestling world. You had Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, NWO, and you had Shawn Michaels and Triple H in DX. And the funny thing about X-Pac is he's in DX, he goes to fucking WCW, and now he's 6. So he's also a flip-flopper that made it work for himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, NWO kind of engulfed itself in its own bullshit and politicked itself out of a fucking company, where DX, they got X-Pac, and they got 2 new up-and-coming tag team. They got Billy Gunn, the badass Billy Gunn, the Road Dogg.
The Road Dogg, Jesse James, the badass Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws.
So you got pretty much 3 young bloods, right? You got the New Age Outlaws and China, and you got the 2 vets, Triple H and X-Pac. But from that storyline, and we'll discuss it more, but I feel like their influence is a little different, because as they're going along, they're building up everyone who they're fighting. Cactus Jack, Chainsaw Charlie, any fucking the headbangers, anyone who was fighting the DX got a lot of TV time. Mm-hmm. NWO, again, it just kind of ate itself. It started eating its own tail until it just fucking killed itself. So, it's I mean, and don't get me wrong, like, I love both those factions, and it's just, can you name every NWO member, Fern, off the top of your head?
No.
Okay, can you name every DX member off the top of your head?
Yes.
Exactly. Can you name the 2 guys who started NWO Wolfpack?
No.
Can you name the new version of DX after Shawn Michaels left? Can you name those characters and those wrestlers? That's the fucking difference. That is a big, and that's a glaring difference, because, again, don't get me wrong, NWO is next level, but DX is a little more,
an unpopular opinion, but I'm gonna throw this one out there. If you want to kind of compare apples to oranges in this sense, what they did back then is happening now, but it's reversed. So what I'm saying is, WWF had a lot of wrestlers that weren't getting over anymore. Vince didn't know what to do with them. So slowly they started defecting over to WCW, right? Eventually you started seeing Macho Man fight over there. Hogan went over there. Rick Rude went over there. You start naming your big stars, Razor Ramon, Diesel, uh, Typhoon, Earthquake. They all started going over there, defecting over there. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Dusty Rhodes, and we're trying to make a smaller company and make it bigger because they took their names with them because they weren't getting TV time because Vince was trying to make new stars and keep everything relevant and going. Isn't it kind of funny that in today's wrestling that's going on right now, it's the independents that are making names for themselves, and then now they're trying to get into WWE so they can be seen worldwide because it's kind of the same thing. They had names and they took it with them somewhere else. These nowadays guys are making names for themselves and going viral, and then trying to get into WWE. So it's kind of weird, but it's the same thing that's going on. It's just backwards.
I think just to get into the business now compared to back then is very different, right? I mean, now you have Performance Center, you have a lot more indies, you have a lot, and indies are popular, wrestling's popular, so you have a lot more outlets essentially to get into wrestling, where all these stars that we watch now have wrestling skills. All these indie darlings who crash and burn because they put their body through too much shit have wrestling skills. So they're training the people how to do it right now. And the smart ones are training you how to be TV ready, not indie ready, right? Because the end goal is you're going to get yourself over to get a look at, right? You have to get yourself over. And with social media and all the platforms and all the wrestling all over the world, and WrestleMania weekend should give you a fucking indication of how many wrestling companies exist and feed off of the juggernaut that is WWE. In Vegas, I saw 25 indie promotions, and if you look at the list from the Sunday before Mania to the Tuesday after Mania, there were 185 wrestling events. That's not including signings.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Tommy Dreamer fight Nick Nemeth at 3 a.m. at the Collective in Vegas.
Nice.
Who the fuck watches wrestling at 3 a.m? That's fighting. It's actually watching it live. It's different to watch it on TV at 3 a.m. because you're fucking bored and you have insomnia and you want to drink a beer, or you want to fucking eat some Oreos, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm out there at the bar watching the Innovator of Violence fight the fucking Outlaw at 3 a.m. And that wasn't even the fucking main event. That was just a match on the card.
That's crazy.
So, like you said, like just you having to get over to get over in WWE it's a big thing now. And back in the day, it just wasn't like that. You had a name and you just defected to the other big promotion, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have a little company like ECW kind of sneak their way in, and they bring their own brand, their own revolution. But it's you can't compare it to NWO or DX. And then the crazy thing is, WCW has NWO, but no one else. Mm-hmm. Right? It got so big they became Black and Red, or they became LWO. Right?
Another spinoff, right?
Yeah, another spinoff, right?
What's interesting is that a lot of guys actually started wanting to go back to WWE because NWO was too big and they wouldn't let anybody else get over. And so guys were like, hey man, I'm like sick of losing every week to someone from the NWO. Like
fucking Vincent. I mean? Vincent was in the NWO and you're losing to Vincent?
That's Teddy DiBiase's dude, right?
Yes. Virgil,
there you go, yeah.
Virgil in WWF, Vincent in WCW. Yes. Yeah. So, like, of course I'd be upset. And then you have the people who have been working their ass off, like Diamond Dallas Page, can't get over. You had the Sting, who is a staple in WCW, has to fucking go different, and then ends up joining NWO, and then turns on the NWO and becomes Wolfpack NWO Sting, Red and Black Sting. Like, there's only so much storyline with that, right? Mm-hmm. DX was its own thing. They never really broke up. They just disbanded. X-Pac left to NWO. The New Age Outlaws did their own thing as a tag team. China left, and Triple H did his shit with Stephanie McMahon and created the Hunter Hearst Helmsley McMahon era, right?
Yeah, eventually, I want to say it was early 2000s. Once everything imploded for WCW, the New Age Outlaws ended up at TNA because they were let go from their contract there because they had no use for them there at WWF anymore.
Yeah, and when you have the McMahon Helmsley era, you don't really need much anymore, right? Like you fucking run the company. You are corporate wrestling.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's why at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's it's more influential because I don't remember getting kicked out of school for telling someone to it's too sweet rather than me telling them to fucking suck it. Right? Like no one ever said, "Hey, Randy, you can't be doing this too sweet shit." But they fucking told
Mhm.
me, "You better not be fucking telling people to fucking suck it." Well, why not?
Yep.
How many times did you get in trouble for saying suck it to somebody?
Plenty. Plenty.
But do you ever get in trouble for doing the fucking too sweet?
Yeah, I didn't do that
There you go. There you
because it
go.
wasn't too sweet. It wasn't too sweet.
It was fucking suck it. Exactly. So
You jump up and down doing that shit.
exactly. And I think that and you see that shit in UFC even back in the day when people were just like fuck you after they won.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason and this is and maybe this might be a controversial thought is the only reason NWO had a resurgence was because the Bullet Club in New Japan brought back the Too Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Hogan's Hogan. Scott Hall is Scott Hall. Kevin Nash is Kevin Nash. But everyone else in that faction, who gives a fuck? Everyone from DX, you would fucking remember, right? There's a reason why they only inducted 3 people in the fucking NWO in the Hall of Fame.
It's true.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the big difference. It's just how are they revered? What did they do for the business? Well, they did a lot. They both did a lot for the business. Let's be realistic. It's just
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
one was a snake that ate its own tail and killed itself, and the other one,
Brought celebrities into it because I mean, DX was still a big factor in the one of the biggest fights WWF had with the celebrity, which is Stone Cold versus Mike Tyson.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, you can
And
bring like you have that mainstream popularity, right?
well, the only thing that NWO that I can remember helped their mainstream popularity was bringing Dennis Rodman into the fold.
Yeah, yeah, and the worm. They brought the worm in, but everyone hates Dennis Rodman in the
Yeah.
NBA community,
Didn't he
right?
leave? They said he left. What was it, practice for the NBA Finals to go do a pay-per-view with
Yeah,
NWO to be there
yeah.
on pay-per-view?
He didn't give a fuck. He didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
kudos to Dennis Rodman. Like he didn't give a fuck. He did what he wanted to do. That's why he's one of the we consider one of the greats. But
Hmm.
like outside of that, okay, they were big in NASCAR. That's cool.
That's
Okay, you
right.
know that's
That's right.
cool.
They had him on the bumpers, not the bumpers, but
Yeah,
the hood.
yeah.
They
Like
have
that's. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's cool. That's cool if that's your thing. But in
go in a
mainstream,
circle. Go in a circle.
mainstream, like people and people who are in pop culture, not all of them watch NASCAR or whatever racing. They watch all the other sports in football, basketball, baseball. And there's a lot of people fucking saying suck it and getting fined for doing this bullshit, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And think about it. They brought NWO back one time and it just didn't get over. So much so that they ended up turning Hulk Hogan back to red and yellow,
True.
right? But DX came back and although you liked it or not and all their bullshit shenanigans, people fucking dug it. They still
Oh,
like Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Like they're still fucking living legends. And now they
damn
fucking
right.
run. Now they run your company.
Hmm.
What is the other 3 guys in the NWO? Kevin Nash has a podcast. That's awesome. Unfortunately, Scott Hall is dead, and half of WWE's fucking fans hate Hulk Hogan. Like,
So now that we've kind of given this roundabout circle of where it came from, where it went, where it's at, Draven, give us a shoot. Give us a shoot. Since this
Um.
was the topic you brought to the table, give us the
Yeah.
gospel.
So I think it's an interesting conversation because you can make arguments for either one. Um, Randy made a really, really good argument in favor of DX, and I agree with all of it. You know, one question or one point I want to make about NWO is I think we could probably all agree that if it wasn't for the NWO, those 83 weeks of murdering WWF at the time probably wouldn't have happened. So I think the same thing is also true where if those 83 weeks don't happen, where WCW is kind of writing the blueprint of what the future of wrestling is for WWE, then would Vince have changed? You know what I mean? Like what would the I guess if you want to make it a bigger question, what would the state of wrestling turned into if it wasn't for the NWO? Because they basically WCW during that time basically wrote the blueprint and kind of showed Vince what the future of wrestling is and what the fans really wanted. And then Vince copied it but made it better. And then so if they wouldn't have done that, would Vince have changed? And I don't think that he would have. I think we'd still be seeing or he eventually did go back to PG and a bunch of hokey, gimmicky stuff. But I just think it's really interesting if you want to talk about the influence of NWO. I think we have to think, man, because if it didn't happen, yeah, I don't know if wrestling makes that turn to stay current with pop culture. I think pop culture would have left it behind, possibly.
I agree with that statement.
I have a counterpoint to that only because although I think NWO deserves a lot of credit for that turn. You're right. I think it would have happened anyway because Vince, prior to even WCW doing anything, they knew that the fucking sales were tanking. They knew they had to change it up. They weren't sure what direction they were going to go in, right? I think the idea of losing and Eric Bischoff doing underhanded shit by fucking telling everyone live what's going to happen on the taped version of WWE changed things. But it wasn't because of NWO. It was Eric Bischoff was trying to win in general, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it was leading to there, and the NWO fucking lit a fucking match under his ass, right? It wasn't a fire. It wasn't a full-blown fire yet. It was a fucking match, and it fucking cinched his balls, and he's like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. And then NWO hits, and he's like, what the fuck am I going to do? No one fucking wants to see outlandish characters like fucking Doink the Clown or Jerry the King Lawler or Earthquake and Typhoon and Papa Chongo. Like, that was cool back then. Mm-hmm. What is cool now? Fucking Jerry Springer, Cops, fucking Maury, South Park, shit that fucking pushed the envelope. I think it would have gotten there. It really, truly would have. I feel like it truly would have. I just think the NWO and WCW doing the type of business that we're doing helped push it faster. Right? Because I think people forget that Vincent McMahon already dealt with a lot of big personalities. Right? Shawn Michaels is a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Everyone says it. Bret Hart, fucking arrogant, but great. You know, these are great wrestlers. They're just arrogant, right? You know, he had Hulk Hogan. He had Hulk Hogan, who had fucking had a big personality, who was trying to fuck him on the steroid scandal. He had the Ultimate Warrior, another guy he fucking made, try to sue him for rights to his name. So I think he was already to the point where he was going to have to push it to the next level. But again, I do agree somewhat that NWO did help kind of push it. But I think it was, if you want to give anyone credit, it was Eric Bischoff. Mm-hmm. Eric Bischoff took those risks to kind of get there. So I think it would have happened anyway. I just think NWO helped push it a little bit faster than it would have gotten it. You know? And that's just the hard part, right? Because I think if you had reversed the roles with DX doing some outlandish shit first before NWO, I think WCW would have fucking fallen a lot quicker. I don't think it would have been reverse. You know, WWE stepped in their game to match WCW and then eventually killed them. Mm-hmm. But I don't think if it was reversed and WWE did something like that crazy, that WCW could even fucking handle it. So I think WCW is lucky that they hit gold with NWO because it could have not worked. Everyone could have hated Hulk Hogan, and that would have been the end of your fucking biggest babyface. And there's no way he would have came back to WWE because Vince McMahon said you would have fucking ruined your name for fucking Eric Bischoff, someone who hasn't been in the business. Yeah. So I think if the roles were reversed, WCW would have died a lot quicker if WWE had done that shit first. So that's why I believe that the DX has a bigger influence because it's just they have a big. Don't get me wrong, they had the fucking spark that they started the Big Bang. I just don't think they were the end result at the end of the day. So
very interesting.
What do you think, Fern? You were alive to see I don't know how many generations of fucking wrestling
You damn right I was. You
50s,
damn right I
60s,
was.
70s,
I don't know about all
80s,
that. You
90s.
need to calm down. I don't know about all that. Born in '83. Calm down.
Born in fucking
Uh,
53, maybe.
'83, bitch. '83. But as far as the way it panned out, I mean, it was good business all around. It was good business because if you don't have competition, you don't have business, and then what? You're always going to have the stale cracker that everyone has to fucking eat. So at least by bringing something different to the table, you're going to make things happen. You're going to make business happen, and it was a good turn about for everyone because people who weren't getting over started getting over in another company, and then those it left room for people to step up because you said it yourself. Vince needed something. He got that shock in the taint, and it's time to make some shit happen. So luckily, he had people there in the company that's like, all right, now this is on you. Now this is on you. Now this is on you. Time to step this shit up. Time to put yourself in a spot. You want that brass ring? Now's the time to grasp it because if you don't grasp it now, you ain't gonna have it ever. Especially with all the stuff that was going on over there, because it made sense for a lot of the older guys to go take off and take their name with them so they can get seen a little more. Oh, look, he changed his name. He's over there now in WCW. Oh, wow, look at him now. Or, oh, he was able to keep his name. Wow, how did that happen? And now what's he doing over here? And did he change his finisher? What's going on if he really paid attention to those names? But the new up and comers really were able to step out of the fold and do something different and do something that was meaningful and impactful. But you had DX leading the charge, which was a big piece of the revolution that happened during just that late '90s that were going on with the change in the pop culture because everyone was getting tired and stale. We were already breaking out of the what is that? I'm losing it here. The grunge era. The grunge era, early '90s to mid '90s, everyone's depressed. There's no more power heavy metal like there was. I mean, there is in the background, but it took a back seat. Just like the change in music, the shift in wrestling happened also. So you went from hair metal, glam metal, the depths of going into the heavy metal, and then it kind of died out, and grunge took over. And grunge, everyone's just sad and depressed, and this is pre emo per se. And then you had to change over where we had new metal come in because you know what? Everyone's tired of being mopey and shitty and stupid. And you know what? We're just going to start wrecking shit, destroying shit, and making a name and wearing baggy clothes and just being degenerates and putting ourselves out there. So guess what? With that shit was going on, wrestling, WWF, Vince said, let's fucking take that energy and let's put it in our guys. Let's see who we can do. Let's see what can come out of it. And you had a fire lit up in a bunch of guys because guess what? Now you have a whole plethora of new names that were out there that are really just grasping you on TV and all the wild antics they were fucking doing on top of that. So they revolutionized and were able to defeat the tactics that were going on in the other fucking show. And I feel bad because you know what? It sucks getting older. It really does. Because how do you stay relevant? What do you have to do to keep relevant, to keep people watching you when you always have the youth that's going to find something new or something that's going to overtake? We can do this later, and then we start doing this later. But you know what? It's a generational gap, and I feel bad for those guys that were
It was
clamoring.
It was this for a long time, right?
It was the earshot, and it's like you defect over to WCW thinking they got that open checkbook from Ted Turner. We're gonna go in there and we're gonna go make a whole buku of money and just ride off into the sunset and stuff. But if you don't have things that are gonna keep you going over up and up and up, you get stale and you fall off, and then what? You fall into obscurity, and then you end up in places where you don't want to be, or God forbid things happen where you end up being a druggie or some stuff like that. So luckily, as the years progressed, people went over to TNA and made a name for themselves over there, especially the ones that weren't as popular, and they were able to remake their name and do something for themselves better in a smaller company, and then get known from there, and then take it from there and do other things with it. But it's the age of success, man. It's how it works. It's how it flows. And if you're not on that tidal wave, you're gonna get bumped off the board, and then you are just fucking waddle into the fucking waters waiting for a fucking lifeguard to pick you up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking suck it, bitch.
Suck it.
Yep. Yeah,
But
right.
like I said, I mean, I think we all have our opinions about everything. We can all agree that without DX or without NWO,
Without
wrestling
one, you can't have the other.
exactly, and wrestling wouldn't have evolved to what people are considering one of the best eras in wrestling. That's Attitude Era.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 30 plus years, and people still compare anything in wrestling to the Attitude Era.
Real quick, I'm gonna piggyback on that real quick. I have a polo shirt, right? Because I wear polos at work or whatever, and I have a DX one. I think I've worn it on the show before already. It's just a little DX logo, and happened to see this one dude that's from another city that's at my work, and he's like, "Hey man, is that a Generation X shirt?" I was like, "Actually, yeah, it's a nice little polo with the DX logo on it." Man, I want to say he's in his mid 50s. I want to say he's like maybe 52, 53. He's like, "Man, I remember that when that came out on TV, man. I was telling everybody to suck it, dude. I was over here at this job on construction, man. I was telling everybody to suck it, man. That was so cool watching that stuff back then, man. It's like, man, kids don't know nowadays, man. If I go up to them and say, bitch, suck it, and they were like, yeah, it's hurtful words. It's like, no, it's DX. And he starts doing this. He's like, I remember doing that DX shout to a bunch of people. And that's crazy that someone just comes out of nowhere and be like, I know that. I remember that. I lived that. I love that.
Nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and if you can bottle it and encapsulate it, that is the Attitude Era. That's what everyone tries to strive to be. Oh, this is a new Attitude Era. This is the fucking they're not PG anymore. They can cuss. They can do this shit. this and people forget that the Attitude Era was a span of 2.5 years. In 2.5 years, they fucking revolutionized wrestling, and the Attitude Era never would have happened without the NWO and that bullshit going on over there.
Yeah.
Right. So
you can't recreate it.
You can't recreate
it.
it.
A little bit longer than that because really the shift change happened like 2002, 2003 when Cena came out with the Ruthless Aggression. Attitude changed to Ruthless Aggression on 2002, 2003. So I want to say maybe 3.5 years. Like it spanned like 97 to about 2001, dude. That was really
think about this. 97 wasn't the Attitude Era because that was still the new gen trying to get out of it because Shawn Michaels was leaving, Bret Hart was leaving. Right when it hit like 98 to maybe late 98 and early 99, right before Y2J, Y2K or whatever, like that's when it really hit because that's when you start getting Stone Cold.
That Stone Cold Mike Tyson fight didn't happen till what, late 2000, early 2001?
99, dude.
You serious?
Yeah, look it up. I might be wrong, but it was the WrestleMania 17, wasn't it? Or no, WrestleMania 13? 13?
I want to say it was 13.
All right, that's 98, 99. It's not very. It's not 97. I could be wrong. What does it say?
Looking it up. Give me a minute.
Well, regardless, hey, this show is brought to you by Topo Chico.
There we go.
Bitch. I know it's Fiesta in San Antonio. Pop open a Topo Chico. Get nice and blitzed. Start a fight with a fucking police horse. Fucking get yourself one of them tortas. Take one home. Do whatever you're going to do. It's Fiesta. Get them feet black. Woo!
Tyson and Stone Cold was January 19th, 1998. WrestleMania 14.
There you go.
No. I'm sorry. The feature segment was on Raw in January 1998, and it was WrestleMania 14 in March of the same year, March 98.
There you go. So as I'm saying, like that's when the Attitude Era really kicked off. It wasn't before that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's just.
Well, I mean, like you can make arguments too for Stone Cold King of the Ring, the promo on Jake Roberts.
That was in 97.
So you can kind of make an argument for that.
The term WWF Attitude was used to describe his programming from November 9th, 1997 to May 6th, 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when the official labeling came out.
97 to May 6th, 2002 that's the Attitude Era.
Okay.
That's
so
when,
I did tell you.
That's when Vince
That's
when Vince stole the culture from WCW and ECW.
No, dude.
That's you.
Fuck that. You were the one at every WCW show that came to town. I didn't go to that.
What are you talking about?
You gave me a Sting mask. I got it at the show. I was trying to be this little stinger.
It was free. WCW matches were free. Duh. You fucking idiot. I was poor. Weren't you poor?
Yeah. I went to Sunday Night Heat and saw DX.
I also went to Shotgun Saturday Night at Aztec or whatever it was called before the Aztec. Yeah, I was there. I shouldn't have been. I probably shouldn't have been at my age. Probably shouldn't have been. But luckily, I had great parents who allowed me and my family, my brothers, to watch wrestling. And hey, play sports, get good grades. You can watch as much wrestling as you want. We fought in the backyard. You were there plenty of times when we beat each other up.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, don't try that at home if you're a pussy. That's what it should have said. Don't try this at home if you're a pussy. If you're willing to take the chance, you gotta try. You gotta get hurt. That's the attitude it was about. You gotta figure it out, right? There has to be accidents. You have to crack eggs to make an omelet. Okay?
You're right. You're damn right.
But your final thoughts, Fern, on this NWO DX. Who do you feel like has a bigger presence at the end of the day? What do you feel like?
If you're asking for bigger presence, I still feel that GX had a bigger presence than NWO, but that's still fighting worse to some that were big NWO fans, big WCW fans. But my personal opinion, I felt that D-Generation X had more of a lasting impression than NWO did. NWO revolutionized and took us to the promised land, but and DX still sticks out and is still more memorable, not just with the chop crotch action, but all the shenanigans that happen along with it, because it was entertaining to watch. If you actually sit down and watch some of those promos, a lot of that stuff was very entertaining to watch. Triple H getting the girls to show the boobies, that's Attitude Era for you. Shawn Michaels making a bunch of dick and fart jokes, them making fun of the McMahons, all that kind of stuff. That was entertainment. NWO was just causing a ruckus. NWO was just it was a small mob that turned into a large mob that imploded on itself, ate itself alive, and really didn't do anything else other than just start a revolution, but couldn't finish it.
Agreed.
So,
Draven?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna. We're talking about most prominent, longer impact, quality of impact. I think that's DX. But I think NWO, like we all agreed, still deserves like its credit for opening that door to give you a glimpse into what the next however many years of wrestling was going to be like. I think that was like the first look at like what the new style of wrestling was going to be, and it pissed everyone off. And like I think that was like really really important in the terms of just plain history, like wrestling history.
Agreed.
If you didn't have that heel turn, if you didn't have that faction, then I think things would have taken much longer to turn. The quality of the show would have taken so much longer to correct itself.
Gotcha. So I mean,
Vince didn't screw Brett. Brett screwed Brett.
There you go. I think what you're saying, what we're all saying at the end of the day is, and you brought it up earlier, Draven, is one of the biggest impactful heel turns ever is Hulk Hogan turning on Macho Man in WCW, right? That's probably the biggest one to date that still has a big impact. And NWO was a fucking flash in the pan. That's what they were. Mm-hmm. They sparked the TNT, but they weren't TNT, unfortunately. Even though they were showcased on TNT Network, they just weren't they weren't the dynamite, right? They weren't. They were the fucking spark of the revolution. And lucky for us, Vincent McMahon and his foresight of trying to figure out what's the next step took those steps to make DX and Stone Cold and all the other characters in this Attitude Era really have a lasting impression. And I think at the end of the day, DX has that lasting impression where everyone knows to say, fuck, who said suck it? Fucking, you like DX? Oh, you like wrestling? Oh, shit, right? And don't get me wrong, I'll see a lot more NWO shirts out in the wild. And NWO is an awesome logo. Our old podcast had an NWO style logo because it's very, the image is very impactful. But at the end of the day,
almost universal,
right? It's a universal language. But DX itself was the epitome of what revolution is, what it's not to be a flash in the pan. It's to be the whole fucking stick of dynamite blowing up and changing the course of what wrestling is, right? You talk about I'm guarantee you talk to any fucking indie wrestler or even the younger wrestlers in whether it's AEW, WWE, or in the independents, hey, do you like DX or do you like NWO? Probably would say, oh, fucking suck it. I got so much in trouble telling people to suck it. So I think we all agree. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember seeing a big NWO on any buildings. I know Hogan did it on the side of a trailer, spray painting NWO. He did it on a championship belt. But I do remember seeing a big ass DX flag drop down to the side of Titan Towers, telling everyone to fucking suck it.
What they should have done is, NWO was the only people to fucking spray paint NWO on someone's chest or someone's back over and over and over, right? So then DX never did that. But hey, you're right. They fucking spray painted a private jet, the side of a building, all over the place. Like, so I think we all agree that although two very big factions that changed the course of history, DX just has a bigger impression at the end of the day for what they were able to do and the stars they created.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I mean, look at that BTR logo. That spray paint logo is based off the DX spray painted logo. So
there you go. There you go.
I think that tells you a little something.
A little something. A little something. Well, you know what? Go ahead and hit that crotch chop on the fucking follow and subscribe button. Follow us on all the socials, right? And you go ahead and leave a comment and tell Fern to suck it. He might.
Tell Randy to suck it.
Hey, but we appreciate
Draven in there too. Tell Draven to suck it.
But we appreciate Draven coming on with a nice little hot topic for a Tuesday episode of Beyond the Ropes. Yes, again, you want to catch us on all the socials at Beyond the Ropes Pod on Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. And catch us live this Thursday, as we discuss a little more wrestling. I believe we're going to deep dive more into a little AEW this week, because we've been leaving them out in the weeds, and they're getting closer to their pay-per-view this Sunday, I believe.
Is it? No.
Yeah.
No.
Which one is it?
Is it the next paper? We'll figure it out and tell you on.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll figure it out and tell you. I know Backlash is in 2 weeks. I thought the AEW pay-per-view was this weekend.
We'll figure it out.
All right, either way.
You know what? How about we do a little something different than that? We're going to end this show on the count of 3 with a too sweet. You ready for that? Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. No, suck it.
Suck it. Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
Until the next one, everyone. More stories, more violence. We're BTR.